Welcome to the Look and Sound of Leadership, an ongoing series of executive coaching tips designed to help you be perceived in the workplace the way you want to be perceived. I'm Tom Henschel, your executive coach, and today we're talking about how to supercharge introversion. Matt had been an officer in the Air Force before joining a publicly held manufacturer. He had risen steadily and was now enjoying his role as a vice president in charge of a very busy division. His background as an engineer gave him the knowledge to understand the work at a deep level, but his current position demanded he move quickly. Each day, he interacted with many different people across many different projects. He found the scope of work exciting. But by each day's end, he was exhausted. His old military voice told him, just push through it, man up. But he could not deny how depleted he was. He petitioned for a coach, specifying he wanted to work with an extrovert. When he was asked why, he said he believed his energy was being drained because he was an introvert. He wanted to learn from a natural. After interviewing several coaches, he picked me. And yes, without a doubt, I am an extrovert. When we first met, I said, "It's interesting to me that you identify your introversion as an obstacle." "Well, it's not always," he said. "I love my introversion when I can close my door and think deeply about things, and I'm really good one-on-one. Again, that's my introversion working. So in its place, it's great. But yeah, right now, it's an obstacle." "In what way?" I asked. "Well, start with visibility. I talk to so many people every day now, and I can do it, but man, it chews me up and spits me out. By dinner, I'm toast, and I still have an hour or two of email every night, but my brain is mush. I feel stupid." I asked, "Have you ever done the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator?" "Yes," he said. "My squadron did it a long time ago. I was off the charts on introversion. And that's where I first heard this idea about introverts having their energy drained when they're around people. That definition of introversion clicked with me the instant I heard it. I love people, but not for hours and hours uninterrupted. And unfortunately, at the moment, that's what the job demands. So I've got to learn some new skills." "Great," I said. "I hope I can help. Can I ask a question?" "Sure," he said. "It seems you've been thinking about yourself as an introvert for a long time. What have you learned so far?" "Let's see," he said. "Oh, I'll tell you something that's made a big difference for me. I got it from Susan Cain's book called Quiet. Do you know it?" "I do," I said. "You remember, she makes a point that introverts aren't broken versions of extroverts. We're different, but there's nothing wrong with us." I think I'd been carrying that idea of myself around with me for a long time, that I was less effective because I was an introvert, and her book helped me stop believing that. So that's one lesson I learned along the way. "Self-acceptance," I said. "Great lesson. What else?" "What else? Having ideas ready. That has been a huge help. My preference when someone asks me a question is to stop and think before I answer, but these days the pace doesn't allow for quiet thought. And I don't want to get left behind in a discussion, right? Because, it just can't be good for me if I'm stuck thinking about something that everyone else has already moved on from." "I can see that," I said. "So how does that relate to having ideas ready?" He smiled. I sensed I was about to hear a story that he had told before. "It started with a mentor of mine," he said. "He saw how awkward I was with people, and I made people uncomfortable. My timing was always off. But he taught me two things about talking with people. One, people like to talk about themselves, and they do, which is fine with me. I'm happy to listen. And number two, have questions ready." His go-to was, "What's the toughest problem you're solving these days?" He loved asking that question. And I have one. "What's exciting you these days?" Having questions ready means I don't have to stop and think. I nodded, saying, "I see how having questions ready in a chat situation is helpful. How does it help when you want time before answering someone's question?" "Oh, well, that's a little different. But it's still planning and having ideas ready. I look at my calendar and I ask myself, what'll be the questions in the morning meeting? Or what's the issue on the agenda for that group in the afternoon? I think ahead and get some ideas ready. And that way my brain doesn't have to start from zero when the topic comes up." I asked, "Do you just mull things around in your head, or do you rehearse out loud? How far do you go in your prep? Oh, listen, that's part of the problem, he said. I have less and less time to do that type of planning, and I have more and more need. So, yeah, I'll do a quick mental review, I'll organize my thoughts, and it's helpful, but I would be even better if I had more time to plan. Matt, I said, I don't know how this place operates, so pardon me for asking, but if you want time to plan, why can't you have it? Huh, he said. Well, I could, I suppose. I just don't want to be the guy slowing everybody down. I don't want people waiting on me. Even though you seem to be paying a pretty high price for it, I observed. It sucks either way, right? He looked away, thinking. And then after a minute, he said, Are you saying I could go back to my old way of scheduling things? Book myself transition time between meetings? Guarantee myself quiet hours? I shrugged. Well, you've been doing it the other way, and that doesn't seem to be working out so well. He took in a breath and let it out. Okay. I'm going back to my old introvert's way of scheduling. Buffer time, thinking time. People will get used to it, right? I hope so, I offered. What other eye-openers do you have for me? No, actually, I'm learning a lot from you, Matt. Your lessons learned, there's nothing wrong with you, and have ideas ready. They're both great, and they each happen to fall into one of two categories that I think are important. Categories of introversion, he asked? No, categories of development. I took a breath and said, I talk with people all the time about developing new habits, showing up differently, displaying the look and sound of leadership, and whether, like in your case, it's managing introversion or mastering nervousness or learning to be concise, or whatever the issue is, I think there are always two categories of development that you can work on. Your thoughts. How are you thinking about the issue? And your skills. What skills are going to help you with the issue? Your two lessons divided perfectly into my two categories, thoughts and skills, right? There's nothing wrong with you. That's a thought to manage. And having ideas ready, that's a skill to manage. So you've been developing both parts of yourself, which is why I'm not surprised you've already learned so much. Well, thanks, he said. And I'm still learning, which is what the coaching's all about. So what lessons have you got for me? I'm not certain, I said. Can I start with a question? It seems you're pretty comfortable talking with people. One-on-one, yes, he said. Why? I asked. Why is talking with people comfortable for you? I like people, and I like listening to people, so it's pretty comfortable. And what about when they ask you about you? I assume they do at some point, I said. Are you comfortable when the tables get turned? He shrugged. Yeah, but I get the topic back to the other person pretty quickly. Because? I asked. Because I don't like talking about myself. It's easier for me when the spotlight's on them. But Matt, you're a vice president now. I think people want to hear from their vice presidents. I think part of the job is to have a clear voice about what you know and what you plan and what you think. He said, that idea of talking about what you know and plan and think, I would not say that's me at the moment. I held up my hands. Listen, maybe I'm wrong in suggesting it. I don't know your culture that well. That may not be the portrait of a strong VP here. No, he said, telling people what you know and what you plan and what you think, that sounds like good leadership to me. And it's 100% something I can plan for, so it's completely doable. That's great. What else have you got? Over many months, Matt and I talked deeply about introversion, and he began to adopt a casual pride about his introversion. People began to talk to him about their own journeys as introverts. And to his surprise, he found himself advocating for introverts, which again, to his surprise, infused him with the look and sound of leadership. So I'm curious, what percentage of people do you think identify globally as introverts? What would you guess across the world? 50%? More? Less? I don't know. The statistic I saw quoted most often is that introverts make up only between 25 to 40% of the global population. That's what most results say. There are more extroverts in the world than introverts, sometimes by a lot. But that is not what all statistics say. So Matt and I talked about the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator, the MBTI, MBTI measures 4 preferences, and one of them is introversion and extroversion. Thousands of people from around the world have been taking MBTI every year since the 1960s, so Myers-Briggs has a lot of data about the population of extroverts and introverts. And what they say is that globally, introverts make up about 57% of the global population. More introverts than extroverts. And that's a really different statistic than 25 to 40%, right? Here in the United States, Myers-Briggs says it's almost 50-50 with a slight edge going to the introverts. Why is all this important? Because I think the world of work does not feel that way. When people tell me they want to polish their executive presence and learn the look and sound of leadership, I ask them what would that look like? And what they describe to me is extroverted behavior. They want to be quicker. They want to be bolder. They want to be more energetic. They want to be more charismatic. Those are hard things for introverts. So in this part of the show, I want to expand on the 6 tools that were in my conversation with Matt, and I want to tell you a story. And I think it's a hopeful story. I don't know how it's going to land on you. But first, the tools from the episode. Listen, I'm just going to take them in the order they came, and that is not intended to indicate importance. So first, managing your energy. So the idea here, not the tool, but the idea, introverts get their energy depleted by being with people. And this idea goes back to the Myers-Briggs type indicator, right? You remember that's where Matt said he first learned this idea. Myers-Briggs defines introversion and extroversion as opposite ways to direct and receive energy. So where you direct your energy and where you receive your energy from is going to define whether you are an introvert or an extrovert. So if you prefer to direct your energy inward, being thoughtful, working on your own, having prolonged periods of focus without interruption, you're an introvert. If you are managing an introvert, you can help them be successful by allowing them to work on their own without interruption sometimes. And if you identify as an introvert, start to recognize the need to protect your energy. Think about Matt, right? The whole reason he wanted coaching in the first place, he was running on fumes. He had literally worn himself out. Your energy is a resource you need to protect, so be a good steward. That's number 1, take care of yourself energetically. Number 2, self-image. Matt felt he was less effective because he was an introvert. And I know that people feel this way. In the world of work, it's easy to feel this way. But it is a self-image issue. It is not a fact. It is a feeling. If you manage introverts, I wonder, what is your self-talk about them? Do you think that their introversion makes them a little less than? And if you are an introvert, what are you saying about yourself? Are you judging yourself like Matt did? So the second tool here, this tool of self-talk, says you are not broken. Self-acceptance creates growth. Affirm your wins. Give yourself grace. That's number 2, self-talk. Number 3, have ideas ready. And look, maybe you do this already. People I know, they tell me that they do this, and they tell me it's helpful. So just imagine you're going to a function, you're going to mingle, you're going to chat. First off, I always wonder, how much do you dread it? I know that some people lose sleep about it. Really, I understand. This tool, having ideas ready, is going to help you have an easier time. So have questions ready to ask people. Have stories ready to share. You are not cheating. You're taking care of yourself. Be planful. Think ahead. Have ideas ready. Another way to take care of yourself is number 4. Manage your calendar. If you have an assistant, enlist them. This is another way to be a good steward of your energy. Manage your calendar so you have time to recharge. If you schedule a quiet hour, you do not need to work. You need to recharge, whatever that means to you. Take a walk, read an article, scroll on your phone, think, whatever recharges you. You take control of your calendar. Advocate for yourself. That's number 4. Here's 5. You know how Matt talked about not liking to be in the spotlight? I know a lot of introverts feel this way. A concern that I have is that in the workplace, often introverts share a little bit less, introverts build fewer relationships, and often become unintentionally diminished. So I would just encourage you to look and watch. I am not saying that you as an introvert should do anything differently. I'm asking, is this working for you? When you are chatting, when you are mingling, maybe even in a one-on-one with your direct report, think about you just choosing to share about yourself. Do you match the other person's level? And if you don't, could you? I believe it strengthens relationships when, over the course of a conversation, you do match the other person's sharing. But again, it's a choice. Can you do it? Can you adopt that behavior? And we get to number 6, which is a complete shift of gear. So far we've been talking about tools, right? Energy and self-talk and having ideas ready, managing your calendar, sharing about yourself. This 6th idea is that all those other ideas are going to fit into one of 2 categories for development. When you're trying to grow a strength, like strengthening your introversion, you can work both of these categories: thoughts, skills. Thoughts, skills. But of course, they're not completely separate. There's a place they overlap. I mean, think about sharing about yourself. It's partly a skill, being able to tell an anecdote, looking at people while you're talking to them. I mean, I'm not kidding. Those are important skills, right? There are also thoughts, self-talk, or, if you're going to be able to share comfortably about yourself, you'll need to manage how you think about that. How do you feel about comfortably sharing about yourself? Your ability to push through any discomfort is going to depend on how you think about it. So thoughts and skills, they influence each other, develop both parts of yourself. Those were the 6 ideas in my conversation with Matt. I hope they help. I'm going to now tell you this story that I intend to be hopeful. I hope you hear it that way. You can decide for yourself right after this month's gratitude. Gratitude this month begins with an enormous shout out to Tom Emery and Tom Mason, who are the hosts of the Beyond Potential podcast. Tom and Tom are coaches in the UK. They have this wonderful leadership show. They had me on. We talked about upward feedback, among other things. And what I really loved about the conversation, actually, wait, a couple things. First, they're really just funny and smart. And so they were fun to talk with. But also, the 3 of us are really experienced coaches. So all 3 of us had thoughts and ideas to bring to the conversation. It was kind of fast-paced and full of interesting ideas. There's a link in the show notes. It also lives on the Essential Communications website in the Conversations archive, which has all my appearances on other people's shows. So help yourself. This one was really fun. Thank you, Tom and Tom. Thank you so much. Gratitude to the listeners out there. If you are thinking about coaching, pop me an email. We'll talk. I have a coaching program specifically for listeners whose companies are not going to pay for their coaching. If you are curious, the link is in the show notes. And when you're there, you can check out the Tools tab. All our infographics are there. There's like 40 of them now. Please help yourself. When you're on the website, sign up for the email. There's always features and resources there that you don't hear here. And please be in touch. I would be so grateful to hear from you. Gratitude, as always, for people who take a moment to leave reviews. Really, thank you so much. This month, from Costa Rica, a reviewer who calls herself Coach Eugenia. The headline on her review was, "The one on defensive people was extra helpful." So thanks, Coach Eugenia. I'm so glad. And thank you for posting a review. It means the world. Thank you. Okay, a story about how introversion impacted a woman's career. This is a story about a woman named Megan. I coached Megan in the early 2000s when she was in a middle management role at one of the big Hollywood studios. She was in the television division, and she was a data analyst. Megan tracked ratings, and she was good at it, and she loved her job, except for one part. Every Monday morning at 10 a.m., she had to present a report about the previous week's ratings to the senior executives. And she didn't mind putting all the numbers together on Sundays. What she dreaded was Monday morning when she had to sit at the end of the conference table and see all of them staring at her. In spite of all that discomfort that she had, the executives liked Megan. They trusted her research and they thought her ideas were good. And one day, her boss told her he could imagine all sorts of career opportunities for her if she could show up a little stronger. Stronger voice, stronger eye contact, stronger presence. And he offered her an executive coach, and she leapt at the chance. And so Megan and I started to work together. And I told Megan that I had seen introverts in positions like hers successfully adopt extroverted behaviors in certain circumstances. It became a skill set. The way some people have a skill with memory or a skill with numbers, introverts can have skill with extroverted behaviors. And over the months, Megan and I worked on her thoughts and her skills about adopting extroverted behaviors. One of Megan's thoughts was a worry, and this really worried her. Megan worried that the extroverted behaviors would always feel phony, like a false mask. She worried she would never feel authentic. But she kept trying. And by the time the coaching ended, she was showing up more strongly in the Monday meetings. And so the coaching seemed to have succeeded. In our very final session, Megan and I wondered what sort of opportunities might appear and how long might it be before they happened. I asked Megan to please keep me in the loop, and she promised me she would. And sure enough, about 18 months later, I hear from Megan, and here's what she told me. She told me that, yes, she had been offered a big opportunity, and it was going to come with promotion and much bigger scope of responsibilities. And with some pride, she said, I ended up saying, no, thank you. She said, I just felt that I would never be able to wear that mask that many hours every day. And so I turned it down. And now I'm running this nice little department with 4 direct reports, and I still see senior leadership, and I am completely happy. I think I would have been so miserable in the bigger role. And I believe her. And that is why I think it's a story of hope. Megan learned to adopt extroverted behavior, and she set a limit for herself. She chose a career path where being introverted really suited her. And that sounds great, doesn't it? Good for her. And good for Matt, who chose a really different choice from Megan's, right? He wanted to run the marathon. So that's right for him. Good for him. So what about you? How are you going to supercharge your introversion? One tool I want to encourage you to check out, an episode of Coaching for Leaders with Dave Stachowiak, episode 746, How to Make Small Talk with Executives. Dave's guest was Lorraine Lee, and she had lots of ideas, really helpful tools and suggestions for chatting with executives. If you're an introvert, this is really going to help you out, so check it out. It's in the show notes. And of course, there's lots of episodes in the Look and Sound of Leadership archive that are going to support you. This episode is linked in 3 categories: managing yourself, self-talk, and social skills. And 5 episodes that you might listen to: conquering people-pleasing, how to grow your self-management, how to show up as more of yourself, how to talk so people understand you, and this is the sorting and labeling episode. Sorting and labeling is a great tool for introverts. It really helps you have things ready to say. And finally, mastering anxiety. I hope this was helpful. If you are an introvert, please let me know. Was it? Okay, that's it from me. Until next time, I'm Tom Henschel. Thanks so much for listening.